Welcome to the Trade Show Podcast, the home for conversations with global leaders in the trade show and events business. Our show will bring you face to face with experts who speak about the possibilities and trajectories of this $50 billion industry. I'm your host Shubhanjan Sarkar, founder of Pitchlink, the next generation visitor engagement platform where our mission is to make conversion easy. Welcome to this episode of the Trade Show Podcast. Thank you for listening and your continued feedback. If you have suggestions or you want me to dig in with a specific guest, please write to me at shubhanjan@pitch.link or message me on LinkedIn. Both links available in the show notes. It's a great pleasure to introduce you our guest today, Carina Bauer, CEO of IMEX Group, organizers of two of the most influential shows globally for the meetings and events industry. Appointed CEO of IMEX Group in 2009 following the expansion of IMEX into America, Carina has been part of IMEX team since the very beginning, joining in 2002 as Marketing and Operations Director with the original launch team.
Yeah, obviously from a show perspective, our opportunity and challenge is always driving value to people in the industry. And for us, that's largely, the exhibitors on the one hand and the buyers that are coming on the other hand. Of course, how people want to experience live events is changing all of the time. And certainly since the pandemic, we've seen that accelerate, I think. People's expectation of the reason why they come. So we know that people want to meet face to face, increasingly so. And in fact, the younger generations, all the research points to the fact that they want to engage with each other and do business face to face.
Carina is passionate about the business event sector and its impact on the world, taking a particular interest in issues around sustainability, diversity and inclusion, and mentoring. Carina also takes a keen interest in leadership development and organizational best practice and culture. Throughout her career, Carina has been an active member of the meetings industry. She is past chair of the AEO Council and the EIA and past president of the SIT Foundation. She has previously served on the board of the MPI UK Chapter and on global committees for MPI and PCMA. Carina is the proud recipient of a number of industry awards, including the SIT Richard Ross Past President's Award, PCMA Wayfinder Award, and ICCA Inspirational Woman Award. She enjoys spending time with her family, especially her two boys, and traveling for work and pleasure. She is an adventure sports enthusiast with a particular love for climbing and skiing. In her spare time, Carina works with a variety of local charities and is chair of the Brighton and Hove Albion Foundation, using the power of football to help people get active, learn, and stay well throughout Sussex. Now, on to this insightful session with Carina Bauer. Carina, welcome to the Trade Show Podcast. I'm so happy that we could actually make this happen. We have been working on this for a while, and I'm really glad to speak to somebody like you, because you have not only run IMEX for the last several years, but you have been looking at this as it literally grew, right? And you are one of the unique people on the show who have a sort of rounded view of both the European and the US markets.
Yeah.
Right? So welcome.
Thank you. Thanks very much. Lovely to be here.
To start, I thought that we'll first talk about IMEX a bit and then get into the broader issues that we may want to address. Tell about the current focus that you have. Beyond the show, which is coming up next month, what is the focus of IMEX? What kind of challenges do you see? And what are the big opportunities that you see lined up?
Yeah, obviously from a show perspective, our opportunity and challenge is always driving value to people in the industry. And for us, that's largely, the exhibitors on the one hand and the buyers that are coming on the other hand. Of course, how people want to experience live events is changing all of the time. And certainly since the pandemic, we've seen that accelerate, I think. People's expectation of the reason why they come. So we know that people want to meet face to face, increasingly so. And in fact, the younger generations, all the research points to the fact that they want to engage with each other and do business face to face. But the reason that they come face to face is different. And I think as event organizers, as trade show organizers, we need to recognize that and keep providing them with the right value. And also, I think for us, what is important to us as a business aligns quite well with some of the issues that we see coming up in terms of the real focus on things like well-being, impact, sustainability. These are issues that people increasingly take seriously. Again, I think the pandemic taught us a lot in terms of how people wanted to balance their lives. And people want to come and experience events, but not leave their entire lives behind. And so all of these things. So I guess really what I'm saying is when we look at what we do, we're looking always at how we drive value, but also how we really create a great experience for people so that they really get the most out of the show, but also enjoy themselves when they're there. That's a very big part of it. So those are some of the big issues for us.
Sustainability is definitely a big one, and we'll come back to that because I know you are personally very invested in it, and I would like to talk about that a little more in depth. Before we move to the next one question that comes up is that we do have a sort of a conflicting data about what really attendees are looking for in events. So, for instance, when I look at the CIR data, and Nancy has been on our show a couple of times, you must be knowing her. She spoke about, like you, that people want to enjoy themselves while they're there. A recent report from Freeman says that overwhelmingly people want to get business done. So while we sort of focus on the enjoyment, people are not really talking enough about the fact that all said and done, people are coming to a trade show to get business done. Where do you stand on this?
Yeah, no, I think it's a really good question. And what I always say to our team is we cannot forget the core of why we exist. So people overwhelmingly come to a trade show and they come to IMEX to do business. We see that. We know that anecdotally, but we also see that in our surveys of our exhibitors and our buyers. What's the top reason you're coming? To get leads, to place RFPs, to find, to have the meetings with the other side. So that is the core of what we do. And if we don't get that right, all of the rest falls away. But if we do get that right, then all of the rest is incredibly important for ensuring that people are coming not just because they have to, but because they want to. And that's how you build loyalty. That's how you build retention. And that's how you build also the delta of people in different sectors who are coming. And that then gives us another benefit of people coming, which is not just for the business, but also because they're coming to an event that transcends that transactional element and also gives them an insight and a microcosm of the world of events for that three or 4 days. And then that gives those other benefits of meeting their peers, understanding what's going on in the industry, getting inspiration, etc. And those are all really important things, and they make what an IMEX show more than just a trade show. But the core is still the trade show, and we have to get that right first. So that's how we look at it internally.
Yeah, I think that gives a very interesting kind of view that getting the transactional part done through the human bit and making that part easy and relatable and something people would want to repeat.
Yeah.
That experience, that when I went to IMAX or I went to a show, I want to have the same experience while I was doing business. I think that becomes supremely critical. Yes, I think that's great. The other thing that I want to ask before I move on, in fact, I've been sort of thinking about this for a long time, is that obviously the exhibitors have their own multiple bodies which represent them and sort of help them with education, with training, with research, that these are the best practices, this is what you should be aspiring for, and so on. And so does the organizers. They have their own organization which is looking at how best to uh, to organize and to grow their business. Unfortunately, and for all right reasons, there is no body that actually represents the attendees, while the core of the value comes from the attendees, right?
Do you mean in the industry as a whole?
Yeah.
Because I think, the attendees really, they're represented by organizations like MPI or PCMA or SITE, who tend to choose memberships at least 50% what you'd call the planner side. So I don't know if that's the kind of organization you were meaning, but in the industry as a whole, I'd say the attendees, that's sort of where their homes are.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. I'm talking of the individuals who are coming in, signing in, and actually doing the transaction on behalf of their companies, right? So
Oh,
these
I
are the
see.
people who you are doing the exhibition or the trade show for.
Yeah.
Uh, uh, and that sort of, I think, creates some of the gaps, because a lot of what we talk of in the industry seems to be of what we are perceiving, right, as leaders. For example, a lot of what you said is something that you are perceiving, and potentially with some data to back it up, but something which is purely from the attendee point of view, which can say, okay, maybe I don't need so much of loud music in the networking session, because then we are not networking anymore. We are just dancing, which is fine, but then it's a dancing session and not a networking session. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. I think for us, it's a little bit different because of the hosted buyer program model that we run. So the hosted buyer program allows the buyers or attendees to come into the show and have a micro experience within this macro experience of the show. And what I mean by that
Yes.
is the way that they're invited, and then the way the majority of the hosted buyers experience the show is in small groups of 10, 20, 30 buyers. And so by doing it that way, they're looked after in a different way to just a normal attendee who registers and then is one of many thousands and a little bit anonymous in that. It allows us to ensure that they have a more curated experience. They have an experience with a small group of peers. They have breakfasts, dinners, but it also allows us to get different level of feedback from them as well, to
Right.
understand their needs a little bit better. And I think where we differ from other trade shows sometimes is that we see our customers, firstly, the first level, as the buyers. Because without the buyers, without ensuring that that experience is a fantastic experience for them, they won't come back. And then our exhibitors won't get the value that they need. And so we do spend a lot of time with the buyers. And we're able to do that because of that formula and that model that we run.
Do you see any possibility that IMAX will have much smaller shows in cities, which is the hosted buyer model only, and not the rest of it? Do you see any possibility? Have you thought about it?
Yeah, so I would say, obviously, there are lots of those smaller events that do take place around the world and in different regions and cities. And some, 50 suppliers, 50 buyers. And I know that a lot of people enjoy those and that it can be extremely successful. From our perspective, IMEX is, as an organization, our focus is on producing global shows in these two major meetings markets. And so we, from an organizational perspective, wouldn't look to do lots of little events. But there's room for
Sure.
other people.
Of course, of course. So, would you also like to touch upon how the meetings piece is slightly different from the trade show piece and the events piece, right? So how that impacts, and talk about the kind of growth around the corporate segments, the biggest changes that are happening. I was looking at one Sendine report, which was saying that the arts and performing arts sector is becoming a very large and an important sector in the meetings industries. So please talk a
Yeah.
bit about
So
these.
I'll talk about the meetings first. So hosted buyers with us, we run a model where we call it a buyer-led model. What that means is that we're inviting buyers to register as hosted buyers, and when they do so, they commit to making a minimum number of meetings per day at the show. So that's their commitment to us and to our exhibitors, who ultimately are paying for them to be there. But what we don't do, which is different from other shows, is dictate who they should meet with and when they should have those meetings, except for during the trade show hours, of course. And we do that because the minimum numbers that we give are about half of a day. Now, some of our buyers, especially those who may work for agencies and are representing multiple corporates, they may want to have 15 meetings a day, and that runs from 10 till 5. But what we want to do is make sure that the buyers who are coming are delivering the level of business that our exhibitors would expect and doing, fulfilling that commitment, but also have time to wander the hall, have time to pop into, to have a off the cuff meeting, to see that there's a presentation going on a booth, and say, actually, it would be very interesting for me to do that, or attend some education, have other meetings, maybe a coffee with somebody. So we feel that that's also a very important part of the show. So what we say is it's a buyer-led, and it's highly flexible, because you have that full day. We want you to commit and make those minimum number of appointments, but we also want you to spend the rest of your time in the show, in the industry, enjoying it and getting what you need from it. And that's where that comes back to that experience, where we're then allowing those buyers to create an experience that works the best for them. It will be all transactional, some will be more educational, some might be well-being, etc. So that's really important to how the meetings run. However, what's also interesting to some people is that the meetings that take place between the exhibitors and the buyers take place on exhibitor booths on the trade show floor. They don't take place in a separate room at a different time. And so that obviously impacts the way the exhibitors build their booths, the way they design their booths. And it is a very meeting oriented with, presentation areas, tables, and just a setup for thousands of meetings to be happening in every half an hour slot right across the trade show. But the exhibitors are highly creative and also creating traditional experiences, bringing in their national specialities, etc. So it's both vibrant and energetic, but also very business and meeting oriented. So it kind of has both elements on the show floor. So that's kind of the meeting component. What was it? The second part of your question? Remind me what you were asking.
In fact, I will take a cue from this and then come back to that. So what you just said, and that's, I think, is a very critical component which I hear from a lot of my guests, and also when I'm talking to attendees and so on. One of the core reasons that you go to a trade show is to allow some serendipity, and that's what you're just saying, that you have this chance meetings. It is not directed towards an immediate transaction, but it's of great value to you as a person, where both ways value can be added, right?
Correct.
And I think what you just described, the ability to have the flexibility to go and drive that is extremely critical. The second part of the question was that which of the segments do you see are driving this? And one of the recent reports I read was from Sendine, and they are talking that a sector you'll not even think much about, art and performing arts, is sort of dislodging manufacturing as
Yeah.
a key key player in the mix.
Interesting. I hadn't actually seen that report, so I wasn't aware of that. And that is very interesting. I think what we see is not necessarily sector specific in terms of, tech, pharma, arts, manufacturing. But what we see increasingly is that, and this is, the start really, we're at the start of the rise of AI, aren't we? And we know that face-to-face interactions are going to become even more important in terms of enabling and engendering trust between brands and companies and their clients and their staff. And so meetings and business events are going to become increasingly important in that space, but also in the marketing space, because so much of what we are sold to and we see online, we don't know anymore whether it was computer generated or whether it's real and what's not. And so increasingly marketeers are really understanding the value of event marketing and face-to-face and live events for driving their marketing metrics and their brand values and their company objectives. And so that's really where we see a potential big growth. And I think we're just at the start of that now. I think what that means for us as an industry is we need to help these people who are event marketeers or maybe more global marketeers, where they see events as a possible channel and one of many channels. We need to help them understand the industry better, help them understand how they can measure success, because that's what they're used to doing in a digital world, and help them really drive and create experiences that are going to be successful for their company objectives. So that's the area where we see it growing significantly now, but also in the future. And I think that transcends different sectors.
It's time for a short break. Stay with us. After the break,
the most sophisticated exhibitors are measuring their ROI over a number of years. So they have found ways to be able to log within their CRM systems where they've met people, what discussions have taken place, and they can go back and say, I met this buyer at IMEX in 2019, and as a result of that, I have this event of this value coming into my city or my hotel or venue. And so they can log it really quite specifically.
You are listening to a Bizcast audio original. Podcasting is one of the fastest growing content marketing avenues today. We can help you exploit this largely untapped marketing opportunity. We can craft your audio strategy and leverage the wide reach and easy streaming capability that smartphone penetration provides. It is powerful and personal. Talk to us to find out how podcasting can help you build your brand and reach out to target audiences. Welcome back. I'm Shubhanjan Sarkar, your host for the Trade Show podcast and founder of PitchLink, the visitor engagement platform. Let's dive right back into the episode. This provides a nice segue to this issue or discussion that I've had many times, is that how does one calculate the ROI in the investment in events and meetings?
Yeah.
Right? And there is no straightforward answer. A lot of people think people actually don't do the ROI measurement. People come for multiple reasons and so on and so forth. Accountability may or may not be available and so on, and similar thoughts. What do you see? How do you think people can actually measure ROI, and what do you see people actually doing?
Yeah. So as you say, people measure it differently depending on their objectives. From the exhibitor perspective, though, the most sophisticated exhibitors are measuring their ROI over a number of years. So they have found ways to be able to log within their CRM systems where they've met people, what discussions have taken place, and they can go back and say, I met this buyer at IMEX in 2019, and as a result of that, I have this event of this value coming into my city or my hotel or venue. And so they can log it really quite specifically. And those exhibitors can give us some amazing data, actually, about about how they've measured the ROI and what that ROI is. And also they have to be able to measure their costs as well within that, in terms of the measurement.
Yeah.
Other exhibitors might look at the number of leads they generated or the number of meetings that they've had at the show, a number of new people that they've met. So sometimes it's new versus existing clients. They might do it in that way. Buyers, I think it's more complicated because, and I don't think they're always measuring it in such a determined way because they're not paying to be there. They're paying with their time and their effort, if you like. But I think often with the buyers, they're looking at their objectives, like the number of new suppliers they met or found, the number of RFPs they were able to take forward and conclude. Sometimes they're also looking at how many other business trips they may have not had to do and how much quicker they've been able to perhaps place business as a result of being at the show. So we've often heard that before as well. So they're just doing it very differently. Interestingly, now within our system, both buyers and exhibitors have access to free lead scanning. So buyers could start to measure it in terms of leads as well, but I'm not sure they're quite doing that yet.
Right, absolutely. So if you think of a unified theory of ROI, so to say, because for something to be successful, I think all the three, the triumvirate of the organizer, the exhibitor, and the attendee, all three need to have ROI which is appropriate for them.
Yeah.
And as an organizer of two large shows, do you think of it in terms of a unified value chain?
Well, there's not one metric that we can use, of course, but I think the obvious sort of key thing is that each of those audiences, if you like, set out at the beginning their key objectives and then measure whether they have met those. And you can also measure things like NPS scores, which could go across each of those three, but they're relatively, they're useful, but they have a place amongst a number of metrics, I think. So in a way, what you're looking for is a kind of quality satisfaction rating from each of them. But the metrics and the details and the objectives underneath those are going to be a little bit different from each one. But you can measure overall satisfaction with the results of that 3 days spent and the money and time spent.
Yeah, I think that's a very interesting take, because in a way, satisfaction is a very subjective element, yet that typically gets fed through objective data behind it.
Exactly, because that satisfaction is based on you getting the leads, having the appointments, getting those RFPs out, etc.
Correct. That's such an interesting thing to say. Let's go a little bit back. I mean, when you were going through the COVID phase, and I'm sure you have had numerous discussions about this now that we are well and away from that era. But those 2 years, what were your thoughts? Because you were already running IMEX for a long time by then, and that I think nearly you were already running it for about 10, 12 years, right?
Yeah.
So what was really going through your mind? What were you thinking?
Yeah, obviously, like everybody, it changed as we went through the pandemic. I think the core of what we thought right from the beginning, and we didn't really change at all, was that this is a moment in time that we will get through, and human nature has not fundamentally changed because there is a virus and a pandemic. And what we mean by that is that human need to connect face to face and be with people face to face, we were absolutely certain would come back even more strongly. And I think we, was certainly, other people were saying that as well. And we've definitely been proved right from that. At the same time, of course, our industry in particular was affected massively. And, I think there was a point in time in 2020 when I heard on the radio that, our industry was 2% at 2% capacity globally. So of course there was a concern of who would be left, what the talent would be like, and whether businesses could survive that. I think if one thing surprised me in a great way, it was the resilience of both people and the industry as a whole, and even small and medium-sized businesses, because you would expect the tourist offices and the convention centers and, the big corporations to survive, of course. But just the resilience and the adaptability of the destination marketing companies and the event tech, other small businesses that really went through a lot, and the way they adapted to their circumstances and then came back strongly. So that was what was in my mind. And the other thing was I wanted to take advantage of the pause for us as an organization to do things that maybe are hard to do when you're running from one show and one cycle to the next, and really take that opportunity. And that is also what we did. So we really invested in bringing new people into the business. We invested in our tech stack. We reimagined different things, and we kept moving. And I feel like through that time, we learned so much, because we did online events, but we didn't do them to try to make money. We did them, we said, as a gift to the industry, and we did them to keep in the marketplace and keep people together. But by doing that, we were constantly talking to the industry, seeing what they were going through and learning with them. And that really, I think, helped us a lot when we came out of the pandemic. We could kind of come out strongly.
I have some questions about the human element. I'll come to that. But I just am tempted to ask this as well, that this huge interest and investment in virtual platforms that happened during COVID, did you think that they will actually crumble so quickly after COVID was over?
I didn't think that the virtual platforms would take away from face-to-face. And I think a lot of people thought, oh, face-to-face meetings, are they dead now? Or maybe they'll halve in number. I didn't think that would happen because of that human need to connect. And whatever, we tried, other people tried, very clever people tried to create that connection online. And it was impossible. It wasn't through lack of trying. So I didn't think it would replace, but I didn't think it would go away so quickly. What I thought would happen, what there would be more of, was this hybrid nature of, face to face being the pinnacle event, but then still a very strong and solid online component. I think that is existing in some cases, say maybe some of the farmer associations, some specific corporates where they have very disparate field of constituents, and that allows in many ways more inclusivity. And I think also some of those have been able to monetize maybe the learning programs and get more people involved on online platforms. So I don't think that's gone away totally, but it has surprised me how very quickly we've come away from the online. But sometimes, with things like this, you look at your own behaviors. And if I look at my own behaviors, I don't want to be on a Zoom event. I don't want to be on a platform consuming content. I want to have an experience and be in person with people. Otherwise, I can have a better experience watching an interview on the TV, because actually what I came to realize halfway through the pandemic is with all these virtual events, our competitor were broadcasters, so suddenly we were in the broadcasting space. We weren't in the event space. And that's a whole, suddenly we're competing with Netflix or in the UK BBC, Channel 4. That's a totally different scenario. So it's a different business, and it's that's why I say it taught us so much. But yeah, I didn't expect it to crumble quite so quickly, I must say. But as I say, I think there's a place for it still. But in terms of that hybrid element with a face-to-face, with an online component at the same time, that really hasn't come to pass.
Right. So my follow-up question to the human connection bit, and I have had multiple discussions on this, and I totally believe that, by the way. However, when I'm walking the aisles of large trade shows, I see a unhealthy number of people who are in the booths, who are supposed to be engaging on their mobiles or their tablets or their laptops. And when I talk to some of the professionals, what I hear is there is no system of uh, training or choosing the right people to come to a trade show to represent a company. So it's like, okay, these are the junior most guys who can be pushed around. So hey, you guys are going to X place tomorrow and you're going to do this. And they are possibly reluctant or they're not interested. It is also sort of like in the real world B2B sales motions, you see that the junior most SDR is given the initial responsibility of talking to a CEO to set up a meeting, which is the most ridiculous thing
Yeah.
if you step back and think about it,
Yeah.
right? It's like the junior most person trying to call you and trying to say, will you meet my AE so that he can sell you something?
Yeah.
I mean, the whole thing is ridiculous, but the entire industry has embraced that. So coming back to the human connection bit, I know it's like a layered question. Do you see that people are actually changing because of the kind of devices we have today? And I mean, you have seen it before and you're seeing it now. Do you see that technology is actually becoming an impediment, so to say? And B, do you see that our reluctance of actually, especially if I'm a company doing multiple events and leveraging events as a main source uh, of business, I am not doing a great, or rather, I'm doing a disservice in not having a trade show focused team, which is actually trained to do that very well.
Yeah, I mean that is certainly the ideal, is to have the right people, the right personalities on that who are trained to do those events. I think in our specific industry, we do have that to a degree with some of the hotel groups and the CVBs, the convention centres, who have teams who that isn't their only job, but it's a significant part of their job, and they're the right, because at the end of the day, even beyond technology, mobile phones, etc., if you're not the right personality type to be on, on that networking, sort of, that ability to really be, able to network 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. multiple days. You'll find, even if you didn't have a mobile phone, you'd find a way to hide, in the back of the booth, or not get eye contact in the right way. And there's only so much that can be taught, I think, around
Yeah.
that if you're not the right personality type. So
Yeah.
I think for some of the larger companies and organizations in our industry, they really do that actually extremely well. And for other companies who are, taking part in trade shows from whatever sector, I think it is critical that they understand the importance of not just showing up and hoping for the best. But that goes for training their staff, organizing their booth, making sure that the trade show forms a part of a year-round marketing strategy for them. I suppose really what I'm saying is there are multiple elements apart from just
Yeah.
the human connection that companies really need to understand in order to make the most of an investment that they make in a trade show, rather than just seeing it as a one-off quick event and, we'll just send the junior to run the booth. Certainly what I see is at IMEX, very senior suppliers on the booths, even if they're not taking the individual meetings, but, the VP of sales or the CEO of different companies or senior teams are coming in, and they are having important meetings around the trade show, but they're also spending time on the booth. I look at a CEO like Reggie Agarwal from Cvent, and despite running a whatever $4 billion company now, he's on the booth at IMEX trade shows. Now, partly that is on us to make sure that we're bringing buyers who are also senior enough that he wants to meet them, but also that him really showing the importance of the investment that he's making in a trade show like IMEX to his whole team that are there. And we do see that, across the industry. And I think, but maybe more industries could learn from that.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Uh, Going forward, do you see IMEX coming to Middle East or Asia? Do you have any plans?
No, we don't have any plans. It is. I smile because it is a question that we're asked, but yeah, we're just focused at the moment, fully focused on the two big global shows that we do, and really because they are very global shows. I know there's one in Europe and one in America, but they're not European or American shows. They obviously have those flavors, but they are both global shows, and so we feel that for the market as a whole, that is sufficient for now, and we're not sure that at this point there'd be room for a show like ours or the way we would want to do it in another region. But so we don't have any plans for that.
Okay. So my final question to you is: you did touch upon AI earlier in one of the answers. What kind of role do you think AI is going to play for the industry? Where do you think actually it will make some uh, positive contribution, and where do you think it might have negative fallouts?
Yeah, I think at the moment there are lots of opportunities. I mean, firstly, I do think that long term we're seeing a drive towards face to face because of this reduction in trust of what people experience and see online. So that's sort of in terms of demand in the industry. I think it's having a positive impact and will continue to do so. Our industry is renowned for administrative tasks and lots of small detailed operational tasks. And without a doubt, AI can help us as event organizers, as people within the industry at those tasks. And I think that will allow us to have a more strategic look at the events that we're organizing and make sure that they are designed really well for the objectives of our clients. So I think that has huge opportunities. And then the other place where there's an opportunity is to just really ensure that when we're bringing hundreds or thousands of people face to face, that the AI is helping those people to make sure to really design their personalized experience and really find the people they need to find. Because a system like ours at the moment does allow you to do that, but it's still quite a lot of work. And our hope is that AI agents in time can really assist you with making sure you find the exact person that will help you with the next event that you're organizing or a big question that you might have that you want answered, because you know that intelligence is in the room. So I think they can help us to really personalize those experiences. AI in terms of challenges, I mean, I think the big challenge will be, I think there are two things. One is that it's not overused and you don't lose the trust of your customers and you don't go too fast and sort of implement agents and chatbots that you promise the world of, but they're not really delivering a good enough experience and people get turned off because, you know, a part of me feels like face-to-face human connection and having a human on the end of the phone, that will be the pinnacle luxury experience that we come to expect from the best brands. And I think, of course, there's a challenge that the technology is moving so fast. We're finding this ourselves. We're starting to implement basic AI internally to help us with some of those processes. But, you know, the tech changes so fast. So you've got to constantly update it. And so that is a challenge internally and getting people up to speed and people understanding how they can make use of it to help to sort of assist them with their jobs, not take away their jobs. And so I think we're still in that period where there's skepticism, where reluctance, where people can be fearful of it, but also genuinely are not quite sure sometimes how to make the best use of it. So the next 5 years, I think a lot of that will be ironed out, but that's where some of the challenges are at the moment.
Finally, what's going to be new for IMEX 2025?
Yeah, so it will be our largest show in terms of the size of the show, number of exhibitors, and also the number of buyers. So with that, we always, one of the most important things is we always have new exhibitors coming in, new suppliers, new experiences. And we do focus very much, as we said, once that transactional element is done, we focus very much on the experience. So our talking point is Impact 2.0. We have a whole track of education around impact, but also a new track around community building, as well as a new track around event design. So we think all of those elements are very important. On a sustainability side, we did a pilot last year around an initiative called Better Stands, and we'll be rolling that out to all the exhibitors and all the stands this year it's an audit process really to see, to help drive reusable stand materials. And then also we have lots of new initiatives in things like first timer, enhancing our first timers experience, updating things like our wellness experiences, so having more of that for people. Just a huge variety really of things, and also fun things in the show, activations like an F1 car in the corridor that people can take part in. So we kind of just try to design the show in multiple different ways to make sure it's fresh, it's new, and exciting for people as well.
PitchLink makes buying easy by enabling high-quality engagement between buyers and sellers. Through its presentation and discussion modules, sellers create customized sales narratives using sales collaterals and personal videos and reach out to prospects through a non-intrusive, buyer-qualified engagement process. PitchLink requires no installation or download, contains and manages the entire repository of sales collaterals and buyer-seller conversations. Talk to us to know more about how you can engage with customers without interruption. Connect with us on LinkedIn or visit tradeshowengage.com. That is tradeshowengage.com. Carina, thank you so much for your time, and I really appreciate your being forthcoming. And I did try to ask you a few questions which might have been uncomfortable for a few. And I think you are very, very, very kind that you actually answered them and with full vigor. So thank you very much.
Oh no, thank you. No, all the questions were great. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, and all the best for IMEX. And
Thank you.
we'll talk again. We'll talk again after the IMEX is
I
over,
look
so
forward
that
to that.
we
I'd
can
love
get
to.
a lowdown on what actually went on.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
Okay, Carina, thank you so much. Have a
Thank
wonderful
you.
day. We have a fantastic lineup over the next couple of episodes featuring great conversations on engaging your booth visitors and maximizing your ROI from your trade show investments. Subscribe in your favorite podcast app so you do not miss a single episode. Thanks for listening. Thank you for being with us today on the Trade Show Podcast, the podcast of record for the trade show and events industry. Here we talk to movers and shakers of the $50 billion trade show industry and identify ideas, challenges, tactics and strategies to leverage the first-party intent inherent in the trade show business. We hope this conversation helped inform and motivate as we all navigate a rapidly changing business environment. For us, these are enlightening conversations enriched with knowledge and expertise. We encourage you to go out and implement some of the ideas we discussed today. We hope to have you with us again in the next exciting episode of the Trade Show Podcast. If you liked what you heard, subscribe to the show in your favorite podcast platform like iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, or wherever else you get your podcast from, and give us a rating while you are at it. This is a Bizcast original podcast and is produced for PitchLink, the next generation visitor engagement platform where our mission is to make buying easy. Hosted by Shubhanjan Sarkar and produced by Rajiv Aditya. See you next time and have a wonderful day.